Hi guys, in CWQ here, and as y'all know, yesterday there was a tea attack in Russia, in Moscow, at the Crocus City Hall, and I'm just doing an update for this. Russia has said that they have arrested 11 people, including all four gunmen, suspected of carrying out the attack at the crowded concert venue in Moscow suburb last night. The head of the country's Federal Security Service has told President Vladimir Putin at least 133 people are believed to have been killed as they have found more people in the rubble. They say that men in camouflage broke into the concert hall, opened fire, and set the crowded venue on fire. The death toll from this is expected to rise. And let's see if I can pull up, I want to pull up Google Earth on this site here. Now, if y'all recall, I believe it was the Miss America pageant, or not Miss America pageant, Miss Universe pageant, was held at the Crocus City Hall. And I believe, from what I've been able to ascertain, President Trump is friends with the owner of the Crocus City Hall. The Crocus City Hall is several buildings. It's also including a mall. And most of these, if you can tell, are joined together by walkways. This area here is where the Miss Universe pageant was held back in 2013. So, anyway, a terror group, ISIS-K, has claimed responsibility but has not provided proof of the claim. U.S. officials confirmed to the news that they had been gathering intelligence for months that ISIS could mount a mass casualty attack in Russia, although no final assessment has been made yet. And Russia is demanding all evidence from the United States, which I believe they have a right to have. Um, Russia's enemies have weighed in on with condolences to the Moscow tea attack. World leaders backing Ukraine in its war with Russia weighed in Saturday with condolences and condemnation of terrorist violence in the wake of Moscow's concert hall attack. They strongly condemned the attack against the civilians in the Crocus Hall, and their thoughts are with the victims and families at this tragic time. British Foreign Minister Secretary David Cameron said the United Kingdom condemned in the strongest terms the deadly terrorist attack in Moscow. Nothing can justify such horrific violence, Cameron stated. French President Emmanuel Macron also went on X to express his solidarity with the families of the victims and the injured and Russian people. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz condemned the terrorist attack on innocent concert goers in Moscow. Even the leaders of countries like Poland that have for centuries viewed Russia as their enemy expressed condolences. Poland strongly condemns the brutal attack on the Crocus City Hall in Moscow. There was a lot of speculation that Ukraine did this. This is not Ukraine's MO. Um, they may attack military and military targets. However, they would not attack innocent people. So that is one thing that I have noted because that did come out in the news as well. Um, the United States strongly condemned yesterday's attack. They sent their deepest condolences to the families and loved ones of those killed and all affected by the heinous crime. They condemned terrorist forms in all forms and stand solidarily with the people of Russia in grieving the loss of life from this horrific event. Putin has planned to use the Moscow attack to mobilize war, historians say. Russian President Vladimir Putin plans to use yesterday's attack on Moscow as a means to mobilize war and repress Russian citizens, says Sergei Radchenko, a historian professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. Putin has delivered a public address following the attack and accused Ukraine of preparing a window to help the suspects escape. Kiev has staunchly denied any role in the attack. Terrorism is a familiar threat to Russians, and Putin has a history of opportunistically using their fear of terrorism to consolidate his grip on power. That's a benign view, of course, but there's no absolute need to embrace conspiracy theories to make this point, Radchenko wrote on X. Radchenko said Putin's goal is clear: more international repression and mobilization of war. And there is proof that that is true, as Russia is planning on calling up 100,000 military members. So that has been in the news as well, as far back, I believe, as a week. What is odd in all of this is the United States put out an address 2 weeks ago stating that there would be an attack in Russia, and they were warning people to stay away from concerts and large events. And that was 2 weeks ago. So makes you wonder what the U.S. knew and when. Apparently, Russia did not follow those suggestions and did not believe that the United States knew what they were talking about. Okay, it says ISIS-K, no stranger to U.S. intelligence, terrorist organization believed to be behind the deadly Moscow concert hall attack, is the same group that more than a dozen U.S. service members and dozens of civilians in 2021 during the American evacuation from Afghanistan. The Islamic State Khorasan, or ISIS-K, is an Afghan offshoot of the Islamic State terror group, which has publicly beheaded foreign journalists and inflicted all kinds of brutalities on captured Kurds and others in Iraq and Syria. ISIS-K also has a penchant for ongoing after civilians they regard as infidels. In this case, a suicide bomber set off a blast near a checkpoint where Marines were checking the documents of people being allowed into the Kabul airport to escape the Taliban takeover of the country, and that was during the Biden administration. In the aftermath of the surprise suicide attack that stunned the Biden administration, I believe that was when they were withdrawing the troops out of Afghanistan. Was it? No, it was Kabul. Yeah, Afghanistan. They said that no Americans were killed in the Moscow attack, so that is good. As far as they know, there were no Americans there. Um, there has been mourners all over the world at different places to mourn and show solidarity with the victims' families. Russia, they stated, is still attempting to connect Ukraine to Moscow's attacks, which Ukraine is vehemently denying. So let's see what other news we have on this. There's an article, Ukraine war, Moscow masses 100,000 troops for possible summer offensive, Kiev says. Ukraine's energy grid was hit. And a lot of people are not talking about this. There was a major, major attack in Ukraine at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. It was on the verge of blackout after Moscow struck a nearby hydroelectric dam. Russian management said the main power line was later restored. This was a major, major attack, and it didn't really make the news. This just occurred, and these kind of attacks are concerning. Um, They result in retaliatory attacks on Western energy infrastructure, according to sources familiar with those discussions. Um, Washington has urged Kiev to cease drone strikes on Russian energy infrastructure, and Ukraine has said no way, they're going to continue. Honestly, I believe that if the United States is not giving arms to Ukraine, Ukraine does not have to listen to what the rest of the world is telling them to do. Most countries are not going to listen to any country that is not supporting them. And that's just the way it's always been. Um, Meantime, European Union leaders on Thursday agreed in principle to use proceeds from U.S. frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine. The International Monetary Fund also approved a third review of Ukraine's $15.6 billion loan program, allowed the embattled country to draw budget support of $880 million. German political parties are targeted by Russian hackers, Google cyber units say. Russian hackers last month targeted German political parties with a phishing campaign. Google cyber unit Mandiant said in an alert released on their website, phishing emails were sent to victims purported to be to invite to a dinner reception on 01 March bearing a logo from the Christian Democratic Union, a major political party in Germany, the alert said. Mandiant said the Russian group behind the attack was identified as APT-29, which has been linked to Russia's foreign intelligence services. This is the first time we have seen this APT-29 cluster target political parties, indicating a possible era of emerging operational focus beyond the typical targeting of diplomatic missions, which judges activity to present a broad threat to European and other political parties from across the political spectrum. They're saying that pictures show the destruction after a fresh round of Russian missile strikes hit Ukraine. Pictures show destruction in cities across Ukraine after the latest round of Russian missile strikes on the country. The attacks damaged electricity and other infrastructure as well as residential buildings in Ukraine on Friday. Russia's war is at war with people's everyday lives. And here's a photo. And you can see the damage that's being done to apartments. This is a 9-story residential building in Dnipropetrovsk district, and it is partially destroyed, broken windows following a Russian missile strike on March 22nd. And that occurred before the T attack in Russia. European Union leaders on Friday responded to comments from Russia saying it considered itself to be at war due to the Western intervention in Ukraine. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, meanwhile, said that Russia's comments show that the Kremlin has betrayed Russians by not admitting to the war and spreading disinformation. Separately, French President Emmanuel Macron said it would be wrong to believe Russian aggression would end in the regions such as Donbass and Crimea, which are either partially or fully occupied by Russia. The comments also raised uncertainty about Russia's military goals, he added, according to Reuters. Russia is building up 100,000 troops for possible summer offensive, Ukraine commander has stated. Russia is building up a group of 100,000 troops who could be deployed for a possible new offensive in Ukraine this summer, the commander of the Ukraine ground forces said Friday. Lieutenant General Alexander Pavluk said it was not certain what the new troops would be used for, noting that they could be also amassing to replenish depleted troops. Russia's military forces have taken on heavy losses in the past 2 years of this offensive. We do not fully know Russia's plans. We only know the data they have, what they are creating, and what they are stating, and they are building up a group of more than 100,000 troops. The biggest issue is if Russia moves towards Kiev, they will most likely consider moving towards other parts of NATO-held territory. And we can see this is where Crocus is. This is Finland here. St. Petersburg is here. So when you look, Ukraine is here. Let me see if I can find Kiev. And you can see that's Moscow here. So sorry, Kiev is over here. So when we look, we can see this is Moscow, this is Kiev. I was looking the wrong direction. This is Kiev here. It's not so far. This is Poland, Lithuania, Estonia. These areas are NATO. So when you look at these as being NATO, I'm not sure if Latvia and Estonia are. This is Belarus here, so that's Poland. Then you have Moscow, Kiev. Where's Poland? That is Poland, right? I think I'm right. That's Poland. Yeah, Poland is here where Warsaw is. Um, Russian central bank is apparently holding steady, so they seem to be doing well. Ukraine's energy grid is receiving assistance from abroad after the Russian attack. Zaporizhia power has been restored. Ukraine's energy grid began receiving urgent assistance from abroad after a series of Russian airstrikes damaged energy facilities. Natural grid operator Ukrenegro stated on Friday Poland, Romania, and Slovakia were providing support after the attacks left more than 1 million people without power. Ukraine's occupied Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe, was on the verge of a blackout Friday morning after Russia struck a nearby hydroelectric dam. And just reminds me of when they hit that one dam and caused all the water to flood out some of the towns, which was totally unnecessary and unforgivable. Kharkiv faced several of the power outages Friday after Russian missile strikes appeared to target Ukrainian energy infrastructure. In a series of posts on Telegram, Terekov said that there were about 15 blasts overnight, which also caused disruption to water supplies and transport systems. But he did not report any casualties. My understanding is one person died, but that was from another news report that I had read. The International Monetary Fund on Thursday approved a third review of Ukraine's $15.6 billion loan program, allowing the embattled country to draw budget support of $880 million and bringing total disbursement to $5.4 billion. The global lender said Ukraine's economy showed remarkable resilience in 2023, but noted that risks remain from Russia's ongoing onslaught. However, Ukraine's mission chief, Gavin Gray, told reporters the fund still expected the war in Ukraine to wind down by the end of 2024. The IMF funding, which is due to arrive in the coming days, follows a tranche on EU funding received Wednesday. It comes as U.S. funding bill remains still held up in Congress. They need to either get it passed or do something, but you can't. Here's the thing, there was a treaty which was done several years ago in which Ukraine agreed to give up all of its nuclear weapons, and NATO countries promised to protect Ukraine. Okay, so now that Ukraine is being attacked by Russia, Ukraine has no defense of nuclear weapons to defend itself from a nuclear country. And part of the world, I think, is afraid of Russia. Russia keeps threatening to use nuclear weapons. However, if Russia uses nuclear weapons, then they destroy their own country as well. So, what's the point in using a nuclear weapon? It makes no sense. But what does need to happen is these countries that promise to defend Ukraine need to do so. They need to keep their word. Hungary actually, you know, you know that Putin was reelected. Here's the thing: he was running against himself. He killed off his political opponent, and of course, he was able to run on his own ticket and run by himself because there was nobody else running against him. So, that's the kind of election that communist countries have. I don't even think that congratulations from Hungary were that great. But of course, Hungary Prime Minister Viktor Orban congratulated Russian President Vladimir Putin on his reelection. If I was him, I would have just said nothing. Okay, you guys, so that was just a quick update. I hope y'all are doing well. Um, there is a lot of news out there today. Make sure that if you read an article, that you read several articles to make sure that the first article is correct on the information that it is giving, as there is going to be a lot of disinformation as well out there. Anyways, you guys, much love. God bless. And I hope y'all have a great Saturday. Much love.